policing white paper, I set out reforms that are long overdue. They define a new model for policing in this country, with local policing that protects our communities and national policing that protects us all. Since taking office, we have already restored a focus on neighbourhood policing that the last Conservative government eroded. They pulled bobbies off the beat, with over half of the public now reporting they never see police on patrol in their local area. It was a foolish error, because neighbourhood policing works. Across the world, the evidence shows that visible patrols in high-crime areas work. The last Labour government put more officers on the streets, and confidence in policing hit record levels. The Tories cut them, and confidence fell. This government is righting that wrong with a target of 13,000 more neighbourhood officers by the end of the Parliament, and we have already put 2,400 back onto the beat. We have also introduced the neighbourhood guarantee, so every community has a named contactable officer, and I intend to end the distortive officer maintenance grant. This was introduced by the last Conservative government, who had to replace the 20,000 police officers lost on their watch. The results were perverse. Uniformed officers hired, but stuck behind desks, with 12,000 men and women in uniform now working in support roles, including, absurdly, some 250 warranted officers working in HR. I intend to end this by introducing a neighbourhood policing ring fence, which will ensure that forces are putting uniformed officers where the public want and need them, out in the community, fighting crime on our streets. However, we must do more. Today, we have policing happening in the wrong places. We have local forces responsible for national policing, distracting them from policing their communities. And at the same time, we have forces of various shapes and sizes, with quality varying widely force by force. This government's reforms will ensure we have the right policing happening in the right place. That starts with the creation of a new national police service. At first, this force will set standards and lift administrative tasks off local forces. But in time, it will draw in all national crime-fighting responsibilities, including counter-terrorism policing, serious organised crime and fraud. This will ensure local forces are no longer distracted by national responsibilities, while at the same time creating an elite national force expert at fighting the ever more sophisticated criminals who are operating nationwide, across our borders and online. Alongside this new national force, we will replace the patchwork of 43 local forces that has remained almost unchanged since the 1964 Police Act. That model has been straining for decades. Today, it is simply not fit for purpose. Our 43 forces are of varying sizes. Some of them have just 1,000 officers, others over 8,000. And the Metropolitan Police is 30 times larger than our smallest forces. As a result, some forces are not equipped to handle complex investigations or respond to major incidents. Meanwhile, the duplication across force headquarters means money is wasted, drawing resource away from frontline policing. So we will introduce a smaller number of regional forces responsible for specialist investigations like murder, serious sexual offences and public order. And within these forces, we will introduce smaller local policing areas. These will be focused exclusively on local policing, tackling the burglaries, shoplifting and antisocial behaviour that too often go unpunished today. It is vital we set these new forces up in the right way. So I will soon launch a review to determine the precise nature of these new forces and the precise number. Its work will be completed this summer. Taken together, these reforms will put the right policing in the right place. An elite national force will tackle nationwide crime, regional forces will conduct specialist investigations, and local policing will tackle the epidemic of everyday crime. Our structures are outdated, and so is our adoption of the tools and technology that could make our policing both more effective and efficient. Criminals are operating in increasingly sophisticated ways. But in policing, in all honesty, our response is mixed. While some forces surge ahead with the results to show for it, others are fighting crime in a digital age with analogue methods. We will ensure that every force is adopting the latest technology led out of the new National Police Service. And this will include the largest ever rollout of live facial recognition technologies across England and Wales. We know this approach works. In London, in just 2 years, the Metropolitan Police have made 1,700 arrests, taking robbers, domestic abusers and rapists off our streets. When the future arrives, there are always doubters. 100 years ago, fingerprinting was decried as curtailing our civil liberties, but today we could not imagine policing without it. I have no doubt the same will prove true of facial recognition technology in the years to come. At the same time, we will launch Police.ai, investing a record £115 million in AI and automation to make policing more effective and efficient, stripping admin away to ensure officer time can be devoted to the human factor that only a police officer can provide. Common standards apply both to the technology we use and the quality and performance of our officers. We must and we will set and maintain the highest standards. We have already introduced new vetting requirements, enabling forces to dismiss those who fail vetting checks. Alongside a range of measures to lift policing standards, we will introduce a licence to practice for police officers, recognising the professionalism, dedication and duty that comes with the uniform. We must be willing to set clear standards and the performance that we expect within forces and hold policing leaders to account for their delivery. Under the last Conservative government, there was a retreat from the historic role held by Home Secretaries and the Home Office since the days of Peel. That was an error, and this government will reverse it. As the old Peelian maxim has it, the police are the public and the public are the police. And I consider it essential that the people, through Parliament, can determine what they expect from their forces. So this government will restore targets for police forces and set minimum standards that forces must abide by. Forces' performance will be transparent and public, and where performance falls, we will take action. We will create new turnaround teams to go into a force where performance has fallen. And in the most extreme examples of a failure of leadership, I will restore the Home Secretary's power to fire a Chief Constable. This was a vital power relinquished by the last Conservative government, who handed that power to police and crime commissioners, a position that I consider a failed experiment, despite the best efforts of many excellent PCCs across the country. And we will now draw that experiment to an end. Local accountability and governance will remain essential, and it will continue to be provided by mayoralties or local crime and policing boards. Mr. Speaker, taken together, these are without question major reforms, a transformation in the structures of our forces, the standards within them, and the means by which they are held to account by the public. These are the most significant changes to how policing works in this country in around 200 years. The world has changed immeasurably since then, but policing has not. We have excellent and brave police officers across the country. We have effective and inspiring leaders across many of our forces, but they are operating within a structure that is outdated, making the job of policing our streets and protecting our country harder than it should be. I began by quoting Peel's declaration that the country has outgrown her police institutions. He went on to argue that the safest course will be found to be in the introduction of a new mode of protection. Now, as then, it is time we had the bravery to pursue a new mode of protection and a new model of policing, with the right policing in the right place. That means local forces protecting their communities and national policing that protects us all. And that, Mr. Speaker, is what this government will deliver, and I commend the statement to the House.
Well, policing really welcomes these bold proposals, the start of a conversation, because we have to ask ourselves the question once in a generation, would you design it this way? And the opportunity now is to take a step back from that, take a step back from a system that was built in the 1960s fundamentally and say, is that right for policing in the next decades? And in the decades since, of course, we've made that work in a variety of ways. We've made that work on our high streets. We've made that work here in London in achieving reductions in homicide and in other local crimes. But that's getting harder, and that's a stretch. And the stretch is on the great officers and staff of our police forces who've made that work over years. That's not going to be possible in the years ahead. So we see a real opportunity to strike the right balance between things which should be organised and resource, capabilities that should live at a national level, which give us a real opportunity then to protect what's most important, which is local policing. What's really extraordinary about this moment, and I've been in policing over 30 years, is that you have got chiefs from bigger forces, metropolitan forces, chiefs from local forces in rural areas, all agreeing that change is now overdue. So we've got this extraordinary moment where people leading out nationally on serious and organised crime, the Director General of the National Crime Agency, the Commissioner of the Met, the leader of the National Police Chiefs Council, the College of Policing, all lined up behind this and speaking on behalf of our local communities. I've worked around the country, I've worked in England, I've worked in Wales. I can see that there are particular concerns in local areas which, if we can organise ourselves appropriately, we'll actually be able to give more attention to. We'll be able to be clearer about the priorities of local communities and how they're serviced, but also we'll make sure that they're supported by technology. So those great men and women I talked about need, in the next generation, really great technology. One of the things we really welcome in the proposals coming forward from government is a focus on local policing areas. We've invested heavily in safer neighbourhood teams. Our command units effectively have been invested in. We've got 32 new superintendent roles across London who lead at a borough level, lead at a local authority level, places that people recognise. So if you live in one of London's boroughs, that really is the identity of the place that you live and work and learn, and that's true around the country. So by generating more focus, more identity in localities, in neighbourhood policing, we can make sure people still feel close to their local officers. In reality, our headquarters are important. They help make all of that local policing possible. But frankly, there are too many of them. 43 is way too many. And so the biggest change you should feel is in that support which local officers get, as opposed to feeling a real change in what local officers can do immediately. In due course, actually, there's every reason to believe these are reforms which could make local policing stronger and stronger.